Good afternoon, well, evening now, Kenneth. How's it going, man?
Good, how are you?
Very good, very good. Now, before we get going, let me say your name correctly. Kenneth Priesmeyer.
That is correct. Yep.
Good deal, good deal. I had to practice that a little bit.
You're good. You're good. Most people get it wrong. It's kind of a. I tell people if you're going to church and eating a hot dog, you should be able to say my last name. Simple 41111 on how to pronounce it.
Understood, understood. Yeah. So my last name, I understand. It's similar, so I get it. But yeah, man, welcome to the show. It's good to see you. We've talked a lot in the season when things were actually rolling and active. I know we have some downtime now, so I appreciate you coming on and talking a little bit more about your time as a fan in Houston.
For sure,
Uh,
for sure. Very appreciative for you having me.
yes, sir. Yes, I see you. We're always active amongst groups, games, doing a lot of different things. So super good to have you. And I think you're my first Houston Roughneck fan to come on the show, so it's pretty cool, man.
That is cool.
Yep, yep, much appreciated. There's a lot of unique individuals that have some fandom there in Houston, so you're one of the many, and it's great to have you on, dude.
Appreciate it. I appreciate it. Not as fancy as some of the other guys. I'll give credit to folks like the Predator Couple and Rig Rockers because those guys got their full blown like alter ego and a brand set up. I haven't quite gotten to that level of fan perfection, if you will, but we're getting there. So
Yeah, you'll get there, man. And there always needs to be real identity, so nothing wrong
oh,
with that. But yeah, dude, where are you coming from today? Where are you streaming from, actually? Just curious.
so I currently reside in a suburb of Nashville, Tennessee, Springfield. It's a small town north of Nashville by about 30-40 minutes. My wife and I have lived here with our family since Memorial Day weekend of 2021. That's when we moved here from Memphis. My wife's originally from East Tennessee, and
Understood.
I'm obviously a Houston native and been in Tennessee since 2017. So
Gotcha, gotcha. So did you attend the University of Houston?
I am an alumni. Yes, I had a weird bounce around track with my college time. I initially was going to a military school in Alabama for a semester. I was trying to go through the prep program to apply to the Naval Academy. Didn't pan out. Ended up transferring back to A&M Galveston. Actually, and I was there for at least a year, I think, before I transferred to U of H. Had good reviews from some fellow family members who were students at the time. Yeah, by assimilation, it became my alma mater, and I'm very proud and thankful that it did. So,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So you've got a little bit of connections there in Houston, is what I'm hearing.
for sure, I mean, if anybody will tell you, for the most part, as Texans usually have big pride when it comes to state pride, but I would say even locally, I've been Houston's been my home away from home for even the times growing up where I didn't live there locally. I've been other places out of city, out of state, and Texas has always been home, namely Houston. So.
Understood. Well, welcome, man. We appreciate you. Uh, to be honest with you, I hadn't had too much time in Texas, with the exception to the XFL, whether it be in 2020 or now. So, I
Sure.
mean, this past season, I was in Texas more times than I've been my whole life. And I mean, I fell in love with it myself. Great place, whether it's Houston, San Antonio, Arlington, everything's got its own little flavor and spice. So that's really what I liked about it. But yeah, dude, let's hear more about you. I mean, I know you told me so you reside in Nashville. What what got you into being a Roughneck super fan?
So I guess it kind of originates back, obviously, to all the way to 2020 when they had tried to bring back the league with Vince McMahon and company. I think I was just the lucky beneficiary of being on the right social groups and platforms to when I first heard about it. They obviously advertised a lot way back then. I think in preface to that year the league came back. But yeah, when I found that they were having one, got really excited about it. Obviously, nobody who calls themselves a true football fan would ever not want to see football any time of the year. And for there to be a spring league to come back was just super exciting. At the time, I was able to jump on board full fledged, if you will. I got season tickets for that 2020 season. My wife and I went down for a couple games. I didn't make it to every one, but it was exciting, man. We had obviously so far, I would say, even though it wasn't a full season, the best experience then, going undefeated with June Jones. I wish we could have got him back for 2023, but it didn't work out. But it was very fun. The atmosphere was great. I mean, obviously, it already felt like home to me because that's where I'm from, and being a UH alum, we played in our stadium in TDCU. But it was exciting. The brand of football and the product I felt they put on the field was great, and that hasn't changed this year either in 2023. So
understood. Yeah, here I've got some photos rolling of you here now. So this is back in the prime time 2020 years. You could
yes,
tell.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
let me go back. I'm sorry.
You're good. No, yeah, they had a station there. I think they were sharing the Roughnecks belt at the time with the old logo, and I had field passes from some of those other picks, so I was able to get out on the field. And I forget the gentleman's name. I think that was the Roughneck specific team leader, or I can't remember his position.
General manager.
Yeah, GM for the team at that point. But it was exciting. Got to see the players warm up for the game and stuff, and was able to do that with my dad actually this past spring for, I think it was the game we played the Battlehawks, if I remember correctly. So, but it was fun then. Still is fun now. I mean, honestly, I can't speak to other leagues. I've never been to a USFL game or even an Arena Football League game. But I mean, the product, in my opinion, they put on the field is great. The atmosphere in game is great, and personally, I think it's just a great family environment. Bring your kids, bring your spouse, your loved ones. Anybody that loves the sport will, I would guarantee, pretty much will enjoy their time at a game. So,
no doubt. Yeah, I can vouch for you on that as well. Houston's a good time. I know. I went to a lot of Battlehawk games the first round, and I tell you, it was a good time there too, man.
for sure. Yeah, they can. I'll give them credit. I mean, it's awesome to see a city like St. Louis, who you could say is scorned because they lost their pro team at the time. But I mean, it's clear that that's a sports town, whether it's football, hockey, baseball. Like, they just have strong fan support for their teams, which, Houston's got a lot going on. So I can partially understand why sometimes, depending on the sport and the level, if you will, of the sport, whether it's college or professional, it sometimes takes a little more time, so to speak, to build up as substantial as a fan following, because you got 6,000 different things to do in such a huge city like Houston. But I think, I mean, when the going gets what's good, and even beyond that, when tough times hit, still, I think we have pretty strong fan support for the people who really call themselves fans of the Roughnecks, Astros, whatever it may be. So.
Oh yeah, you can tell even amongst the sports media there, the guys working, they love what they're doing. They're wearing their gear, whether it be whatever. There's always something. I noticed too when we were there for games. I mean, there were events all the time. There was always something to do in Houston. Always something going on. So I know that was going to be tough for the XFL to compete, especially coming back from the hiatus.
Yeah, I think, I mean, when you compare it, a lot of people I'd seen online and stuff make comments, and justifiably so, about, it's unfortunate that some of the games had to occur in some of the peak weekends, like when we had Rodeo Houston, which, I mean, brings people from all across the country there. And so I can understand that. At the same token, I mean, I personally, if you want to compare apples to apples with like the USFL, for instance, I think the timing of our league for the XFL is better when you compare it with when the dates fall typically for like the NFL draft and the subsequent start of like the summer training camps and such, just because, I mean, it flows well with the NFL schedule. And if, if Dane and Dwayne and Danny Garcia have anything to say about the league, obviously that's their biggest preaching point, is that they want it to truly be a springboard for guys to get that second chance. And I think the way they've positioned the date range, if you will, of the season is ideal for that. So.
Yeah, no doubt. And you can see that with how many players have been picked up just by the NFL so far.
It was amazing to see how many guys got at least a shot, if not a sealed contract, by this fall. But I mean, a ton of guys got picked up. It was awesome to see that, for sure. So.
Yes, sir. I think we're at 49 today is what I saw.
Yeah, I ain't keeping track of the exact number, but I knew it was huge.
It's hard, man. It changes daily, so I understand. I always look it up before a show and make sure I have it right, and just to verify. And then guys do get dropped still, and we don't hear about that. It's usually just what happened. So, but yeah, dude, I'm happy for him as well, and I think it is a good developmental league. And people don't like that term. I do. I think it's okay to have that.
Sure.
We're seeing the products that we're getting from that, and I mean, no matter what, I know there's going to be plenty of skill left for us next year to have some sweet teams going.
Right.
They have the 90-man rosters, but as far as I know, once the active season hits, we're going to 50. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of guys that get cut there.
Oh yeah, they get a drop. I think. I mean, the pool is obviously massive. Whether look independently or solely at the college field versus the pros, but both. I mean, you mesh those together and just it's a abundant pool of athletic talent. You could say that we have to pick from, and that's available. So
Yes, sir. Now, we're going to talk more deeply into these subjects, and like I said, we're going to talk about game marketing, ticket marketing your way in Houston, as well as just getting your opinion on fan engagement, what you think about it as a fan. Being a hardcore fan, I feel like you have a different mindset, as well as being a original 2020 fan. You're right there with most of us that do shows or write article. I feel like you understand both levels. So it's good to have you, man. Let's just go ahead and start. Let's talk about the ticket and game marketing in Houston. Now, you being a 2020 fan, just fill me in. How did that experience go for you? I'm sure you were excited when you heard the news. I'm sure you were
sure.
ready to go. What?
Oh yeah.
Just tell me more. How did that happen?
I can't remember exactly how it was announced. So I followed all the way, obviously, until going back to 2020. COVID hit. They announced publicly that they were suspending the league, I think, at the time. And then the status changed, obviously, fully canceling the season. But beyond that, I had been kind of following the article inner workings when they first started announcing that The Rock and company were going after buying the XFL from bankruptcy from Vince McMahon. So I knew right there, like, just from the brief knowledge I had from The Rock at the time with the other business ventures he did, like there was intentionality behind that acquisition. And, initially, I think at the time we were obviously a lot of people were probably expecting or hoping they were going to start up in 2022. I don't know if the remnants of COVID or what possibly delayed that, getting all the finer details set up so that they could. But we obviously got rolling in 2023, and I was very thankful and happy for that. I think I don't know when they first opened. I want to say I bought my season tickets for 2023 like soon after they immediately opened, but it was all the way back in November of last year.
Yeah. So what I have pulled up here is just a frequently asked questions from last year. I couldn't find anything legitimate. I'm sure there's something somewhere from the date it actually dropped. But yeah,
Sure.
you're correct. November 17th, all the season ticket memberships went on sale, except Vegas, if I remember correctly. Now, this was just season tickets. This wasn't single game tickets.
Correct. Yeah, I think that was proof evident. Obviously, roll to what was it, end of January, or I say
Yep.
mid-January at least, when they finally released the schedules. And I know a lot of people were partially frustrated by that. I understand, obviously they were still working with Vegas to try to get theirs nailed down. So it probably was not even in the realm of possibility for them to release any of them until they had the final team nailed down,
Yep.
because every team, at least for 1 week, every team's schedule was going to be affected by that and the logistics behind it. So I understand how and why it happened in a sense. A lot of illumination came to the fact I wasn't aware. I'm not a local Vegas fan, obviously, by any means, but I didn't know that the Raiders had such a like a foothold, if you will, on the just sports market in Vegas, and the fact that they were, I guess, kind of have such a proprietary pinch on things, and I think that's what made such a headache for probably the upper management of the XFL to get something nailed down for that team, for the Vipers. So I'm glad they did, though. And I would say, I mean, for me, looking forward, like that's probably one of my biggest things that I hope can be improved to some degree for this next year, just because someone for myself, obviously coming all the way from Tennessee, like I want to try to make it to every game I can, and having the schedule a month out from the start of the season was a little hard to like guarantee I could make it to everyone. But beyond that, I mean, made it work, and it definitely still had a memorable season. So I was excited about that and glad it was able to happen. So
Same here. Yeah. So we got some comments I'm going to get to in just a second, just a few that I'll hit. But before we move on, so what I have here is just the posting from Twitter. So this dropped January 12th, and this was when I believe single game tickets went on sale. So you can see the kickoff was February 18th.
Yeah, it was honestly, I think, one of the shortest span between rollout of schedule and start date of the season that I think I've ever seen in my life. And I even myself, I mean, like I said, looking back, I can more empathize, I think, with the struggles of upper management. But
Oh, no doubt.
time I was like everybody else blasting them on the group page and the main Facebook page, like, where the heck is the schedule, man? It's taking forever. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I was right there with you. This was before I pursued the media stuff officially. So, I was attempting to watch Houston. They're close to me. I'm in South Mississippi, so it's still, it's 400 miles or so.
Right.
But like I was in the same boat as you. But I wasn't, after what happened with the other seasons in AAF, I was not buying season tickets personally. I bought them after we got started, but to start, I was not doing it myself.
I personally think you can see that in the numbers. If you look on anywhere from Wikipedia to other sites that probably track it, there was a slight dip. And I guess thankfully, I would say it wasn't by a huge amount. But there was a slight dip when you compare the metrics from Houston's season in 2020 to what it is this year. And that may be a myriad of factors, not just the lack of detail on the schedule coming out late, but I think personally the fact that, and from a business side, I see the wisdom behind it. I think Danny and Dwayne and the other upper heads chose to maybe partially, to some extent, ride the coattails of the fandom that was in place from 2020. And I think you saw a majority of those people, return. I can say that's very evident from my experience with the Roughneckers tailgate that used to formerly be known as the Katy Roughneckers. They're locally in Houston. They had a really strong, I think, following the first season in 2020. And I didn't honestly have any knowledge of their existence until this year when I had bought my tickets. And I think in January or so, I had seen stuff come up on the fan group pages about them. And so I started attending some of the tailgates, and we had a great experience. But yeah, I mean, all things considered, I think they announced it, I want to say back in June maybe, or May, I can't remember, but they had released kind of the metrics on some of the general financial numbers from the league this year. And I remember when Vince McMahon and them, I think, had canceled the season in 2020, I want to say he had reported like a multi-$100 million loss, if I remember correctly, like 400 or something nuts. I can't remember what it was. But they had only, obviously loss is never good, but in your first year of any business, I think it's understandable if that becomes the reality. And the fact that they lost such a much less higher number this season, I think was a red, not a red flag, but a positive to take away from the season. So
agreed. And as we're talking about marketing, I mean, are you aware? Now, reports said that they only spent, around $120,000 on actual advertising and marketing.
I 100% believe it, because I mean, that was a lot of questions that were coming up on the boards in the fan groups I was a part of at the beginning of the year. I didn't see any form of an advertisement until actually I think the weekend I was flying down. I was in Nashville airport getting a drink at one of the bars in the terminal, and I'd seen on ESPN or somewhere, I think they finally had blasted an ad for the XFL, and it was the first time I had seen anything. And I'm a pretty avid YouTube guy, so I'm on there fairly often, and I had never seen a single ad on there. When I had driven through town that first weekend at the game, I didn't recall seeing any billboards, which are, I think, two things at least they did to some degree in 2020. But I mean, there's obviously it's that whole, double-edged sword and pros and cons of, you got to spend money to get the word out, but how much, where do you put your cap there in order to be effective, but not lose your tail and lose your pants, so to speak. So
Yep. You are correct in that. It's a tough spot to be in starting any business. And when you're starting a football league that costs hundreds of millions, I mean, we as people, normal people, we don't really fathom what's behind there. I mean, we do, because we have some research. We're educated a little bit, but I mean, most people they don't realize how much it costs to do this, and that's why leagues like the AAF and the first XFL or the second XFL fell apart. They just didn't have the money. I'm going to pop up some comments while you talk, but go ahead. It's Rig Rockers was on here. They said, "What's up, Ken?"
What's up, guys? Yeah, no, I think one of the other things that might, in a sense, bode well for longevity with the league this go round, and this is just going from a hunch and being a person that values integrity and accountability, whether it be business or otherwise. I think you saw this in the AAF with what's his face, kind of blasting this false idea that they had tons of money that wasn't actually locked down, wasn't secured to fund the league. And then similarly, I don't think this came out till after the fact and never was formally announced, but I think most fans and people with half a brain could connect the dots. Vince McMahon had said he had like, I don't know if it was $400 or $500 million to fund the league in 2020, but I think it was very clear that a lot of that was revenue hitched on WWE performance indirectly through however that whole corporation and umbrella group is funded and managed. And it was clear, obviously, that wasn't like a 500 pool of money in an account over here sitting ready to go. It was like, okay, we're hedging our bets on this other business entity doing well so that we can take a little off the fat of the profits and, put it over here, which I understand. But it was frustrating because it's like that obviously is a risky business move in any scenario. Not to say that people don't do it and are successful, but there's more exposure to losing your full wallet there, I guess, than if you have just the funds you need holistically to fund the league that first year or multiple years in.
Yeah. And when you mentioned the pandemic, COVID really killed it. It killed everything. I mean, there was nothing going to survive that with things shutting down for months at a time. Even in a place like Texas, it's still, I mean, the reach was there as well. I don't really sit on any fence when I discuss this stuff on air, but you saw what happened with everything yourself.
For sure. I think certain industries, I think, obviously do much better than others. Football is obviously a very more recreational, tertiary business, so it's not core to any functionality of society if you want to get down to the root of it. And I mean, that one thing I always brag to my friends about is a construction professional working in Houston back when we had like the recession in 2008, and even when I was coming out of college as an intern and early employee, like everybody was saying how we were dealing with an economic struggle nationwide. And I was like, I don't see any of that here. I don't know what you're talking about. But that's a whole different industry, obviously. No matter how down in the depths businesses are, large corporations still got to build stuff. So I get that part. But.
Yes, sir. And people at home as well. They got bored. They were at Lowe's all the time doing things. Stop sharing. But yeah, man, I agree with what you're saying. It's evident that the money has to be there to have these leagues be successful.
For
and
sure.
Everything else can come, but if you don't have the money to start,
to double back on my point, I guess what excites me about it is the fact that I think one of the reporters, when I forget if it was at one of the first games or one of the I forgot the term they used, the field days they did for kind of the XFL tryouts preseason, but one of the reporters had asked Danny about that whole component of like, where's the longevity coming from? What type of guarantees do you have from Redbird Capital, who's one of the biggest, I think, financing partners in the whole conglomeration of investors? And I think she said they had committal from them for like a 3 to 5 year span, which is very encouraging and definitely makes you feel like as a fan, at least that the financial vested interest and commitment is there. I'm sure from a business standpoint, they probably have specific metrics they have to hit every season. And I think you even saw that as soon as the season ended, they dropped like, I don't know how many staff people from their overhead payroll, if you will. And I'm sure that had something to do with either they did or didn't check a box. And that was a corresponding action that had to be taken to stay in compliance with the conditional agreement that Redbird has with the business. But I mean, even still, it's exciting that the fact that if what she says is true, they have something that even the Vince McMahon version in 2020 didn't have, and that the AAF, for instance, didn't have, which is truly an entity that has funds committed to help support the league and push it through. So,
understood. I'm right there with you. I'm throwing up some comments that we got here. The Mad Shatter, he's on it.
It was tough, man. I agree. I think, like I said, I think they followed the fandom from 2020, and it worked out for them for the most part. So that was helpful. I would logically expect them to up the ante a little bit leading up to this coming season. If we don't see that, then I could see you definitely have a valid critique for sure. Because as you grow, you've got to continue to get the word out and the name out. And it was crazy how many people, even on Facebook, when I would make a comment or a post, and I'm sure my other friends encountered it too with their coworkers or friends in the city, like, what, the XFL's back? Like, there were so many people that were still ignorant of it, even returning. And it just isn't mind-boggling to me. And now in today's day and age, it's like, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, or other major platforms, like, just news gets around so fast. It's surprising unless you're just one of those mountain men in, the middle of nowhere who's just unplugged from everything, that you wouldn't hear about something eventually, I guess is what I mean to say. But
with sports fans, no doubt. We're all
Yeah.
plugged in to a degree. If not, we're listening to something, we're reading something, we're looking up something.
You're right.
Do you, as a fan, I mean, like you said previous, you feel like a lot of the consumers of the product for XFL this past 2023 was just old fans coming back and rejoining the folds, correct?
For sure. I mean, regardless, I know you're always going to have some small percentage of new people, and you want that. Obviously, that's the only way you see growth in a league. But yeah, I would say almost everybody I talked to in the tailgate group that I had attended and participated with, most, if not all those people were previous game attenders from the season prior, and a lot of them were season ticket holders from the season prior. So you had that like committal, hey, I'm going to be here, rain or shine, because I love football and I love this city and this team, which makes it awesome to have that. But you obviously got to see the growth, and I think we saw at least new fans come in. Obviously, as I said, we didn't really eclipse our numbers from 2020, but I don't think you can expect that when you have any type of gap in years apart with seasons. So,
yep. I mean, you could see from the attendance numbers the difference in just from 2020. And need be, I mean, we did lose some games in Houston, but the fans in Houston still are going to support their team, and that's my opinion.
I think you had the initial fall off from like week 1, week 2 on, but then we kind of like plateaued at a number, which I think that's the metric you really got to look at to say, okay, here's where we have at least a dependable level following. From here up is where we want to try to build from. And, I think that will be one of the biggest barometers that the upper management and just fans in general can look at this season when we trickle into 2024 and say, okay, how are we doing week to week this season? How does it look with terms of attendance? And that can be at least one indicator on hopefully there being able to be tangible, seen improvement in the league, gaining growth and fandom. So,
yes, sir. Agreed on that. In terms of improvements, what do you feel like as a fan? Just some real world examples of improvements that maybe you would hope to see for next year, being a ticket holder, season ticket holder.
I would say, honestly, I guess, I already stated kind of the schedule release being much sooner. I think that goes without saying, but that would be one of the biggest ones. I think that would not, a lot of people, to your point, there may be people out there that are interested in buying season tickets, but then they choose to forgo that entirely because they don't have the schedule. And I guarantee that's the reason some people probably didn't do it to whatever number that was this last year. So I would hope that would be a big one that they focus on. I know they're working on some logistics things, both with our team and maybe others, for confirming that the venues will be the same for next season. Beyond that, though, I guess it's probably more when my nitpicky self comes out. I know a lot of people were disappointed with the release of some of the merch in the shop being like so late in the seasons, mainly the jerseys.
Yeah.
Glad they got them out, though. I'm glad we have them. I'd be curious to know why they're as high as they are, but I'll definitely probably still buy one at some point myself, because you just got to have some of those collector items. So, but
no doubt.
I think for me, the one thing I've seen that they don't have, to be real like specific, is I haven't seen a single polo posted on the shop online. And I expected, when I started seeing the coaches and the players wearing them, I was like, oh, surely that's going to be up in the next week or two. And I never saw anything. So I'm hoping that would be my number one thing. Like, we need to add that to the shop pronto. Because I know at least me and other business professionals who like to rep their teams, you can look in my closet and you'll see a Stars, an Astros, a UH. I got a polo for every freaking team. And it would be no different for the Roughnecks if I could do it. So, which I technically made one myself, but that was because I got impatient. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I got to rock one. That was funny. I was wearing one. So.
In 2020, I remember they didn't have polos going either.
Yeah.
I didn't look this year just because I was dressed up at each game anyway. And you can't, as a media person, you don't really want to favor a side. You kind of just want to, dress cordially in business attire.
Sure.
But yeah, I remember in St. Louis, I had to get a couple made myself because they were nowhere to be found even then.
So
I had some comments I'm going to hit real quick if it's cool. So the Mad Chatter, he talked about talent pools. Mad Chatter, I don't think we're going to discuss talent pools too much today. We'll definitely be on the subject in the future. But today I'm just talking to him about fan engagement and marketing and stuff from his perspective in terms of being a Houston super fan. So
I'll
But
say,
yeah,
I'll say one thing on that.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I think my biggest prediction, and it as far as I know, he hasn't been picked up. He could still get picked up due to an NFL injury. I'm not directly necessarily a fan of the guy, but if you're talking NFL talent potentially falling down to the XFL level, Carson Wentz is like my number one guy that I think is going to get put on it. If he's willing to take the salary cut, these guys make millions, but some dudes who love the sport enough and want that second chance at redemption, you're going to get it in actual play time, not in, these periodic drill open practice options you get from teams. You don't get as much from that. So I would think he'd be a good one to get snagged up if they can convince him to come, but there's no guarantees there. So.
I'm not even going to talk about that. I'm just glad as a Saints fan that we did not pick him up. I will take Derek Carr any day of the week.
I think he's got plenty of room to improve. We'll leave it at that. And it's frustrating because you got guys out here that arguably still have some talent like Cam Newton, but they think they're worth, the biggest signing salary in the league. And it's just like, dude, you're never going to come to the XFL and we wouldn't want you even if you did, because your head's too far in the clouds. Crazy.
Yeah, the Mad Chatter says they should invest in a star QB or 3. I agree with that, man, 100%. That's what a lot of these IFL QBs, there's only a few, but everyone that was at that combine was a stud, straight stud. So check them out if you haven't. TJ Edwards and EJ Hilliard, both studs, and I haven't heard anything on them yet. Hoping to speak with them at some point.
I definitely think intentionally or not, them having AJ was a huge boost to the league. And I know it's kind of cliche because he was on the St. Louis squad, which was the same city that had the biggest fan support. But I mean, the fact that you can see a guy who tangibly said, you know what, I don't want to spend every day of my career on a practice squad. And I personally identify with that. If I was living vicariously through any QB, it'd kill me to be a guy. I love him to death, but I couldn't live like Case Keenum. Like, it would be such a shock to my pride to have to be that journeyman backup my entire career and maybe see one game a year that I get to play. Like, I get it, you play in practice, but I mean, it's not the same as being under the lights and, feeling the adrenaline rush from throwing a touchdown pass when the clock's, striking down or whatever it may be. So I think he was an awesome, spokesperson for the league in a sense, all because he's a family guy, but he also, he willingly took that because he wanted his boys to see him play. And he truly loves the sport, which I thought was super commendable. So it'd be cool if we could get some more guys that would rep it hard like he does, because I think I agree with the fans that would be beneficial to the league as a whole.
Yeah. I'm right there with you guys on all that. It would be cool if we had some kind of bonus system for, superstar athletes. But then again, I feel like that would put some people ahead of others, and we'd be sitting in a weird place in the developmental league of who's a star and who's not a star, who's going, who's staying.
Right.
But yeah. Michael Lathrop's on here, and he actually commented as well. So we'll go ahead and jump into this subject with Michael. With Houston Stadium situation, the schedule is likely going to be delayed a bit. Now, I have some opinions, but I try not to speak on them without any official information. Right. So I foresee their schedule being pushed out, and along with Vegas still, because like I said, when the season tickets opened up a couple weeks back, you could not pick your tickets for Vegas or Houston. You have to wait for that still. Everywhere else, you could pick a seat. You could go ahead and set it up, pay it, those 2 spots. So, I mean, that to me is foreseeable. But what do you think, man, as a fan? How do you, and especially being a Houston guy, you know your way around there pretty good.
At least up to date on the inner workings of what's going down, reflective to our football squad and how that affects, obviously, other teams using the venue like the Roughnecks were. I can't speak for Vegas. I don't know what's going on there. But for Houston, I actually was on the call, I think July 1st. The university did like a midnight toasting with Pesman and a couple other folks, including Dana Holgerson, our head coach, to kind of just commemorate the official start in the Big 12. And part of that announcement they had is when they first kind of publicly shared some residual photos of the new development that they're going to be doing on the north end of the end zone and the stadium with the attached athletic facility for the football operations. So my opinion on that, and I can only speak as a construction professional, if we say in a perfect world they get everything locked down from a design standpoint and have that all their ducks in a row come the end of the season, which will probably be, November sometime, even with all that being perfected and ready to go, from my general knowledge of construction, I just don't see them being able to even do enough. I've never seen a stadium, I'll say this, like Kyle Field, for instance, when they do the renovations of the stands and it's only partial. Any stadium you look at, I've never seen a football season, college, pro, whatever, however, take place in a stadium that has in progress construction work, renovation work being done. Not to say that you couldn't do it, but I'm sure logistically and safety wise, it's like a nightmare.
Yep.
So, it is no organizational or owner person would probably ever want to do that. And I completely understand why. All that to be said, I don't think when you look at it, if you just match when our season fell this year from November to arguably, February, second week, third week after the Super Bowl,
Yep.
is the time frame window you would theoretically have to get all those all the seating changed out, which includes a lot of concrete work. They're planning to put in a brand new, like, giant freaking screen scoreboard on that end zone. That's the predominant ones that's utilized by who's ever in the venue. And we've got, I think, a secondary one there that's like in between the stadiums on the southwest side, I think it is. But that's not going to hold everything they want. And just functionally, it wouldn't work if you didn't have all that in place. So, like, in my opinion, I just don't see it feasible that they lock down TDCU. And I think that, to your point, that's probably why they haven't allowed ticket selection, because they know more than likely that's not going to be the venue they're going to be able to utilize. I don't know when they will make the committal jump, so to speak, to lock down another venue. Most Houston folks know the lay of the land there when it comes to, venues that would be able to, like, properly house the team, the football games, and, the operations of fans who are in attendance. Personally, for me, the only two venues I can think of, which one of it has been talked about in some of the fan groups, is Rice's Stadium, closer to the medical district. And then the only other one, which I want to say, I don't remember if we at UH ever played there. I want to say we did, but I'm not sure, is the Dynamo's soccer stadium. Both are fairly similar in terms of seating capacity. Rice actually, I think, has more. But, I mean, you can imagine the cost of renting and utilizing, like, NRG or Reliance Stadium is going to be astronomical, and not probably a fee that Dana and Danny are going to be willing to pay for one team. Because, I mean, I don't think there's any other teams that play in pro stadiums as far as I can recall. I guess
I got a comment here. I don't know if it applies.
Yeah.
Predators are here. Is that? I had to.
They're the real MVP Roughneck fan supporters, I would say. They got tons of airtime during the games. They're the ones that helped facilitate the entire Roughneckers tailgate. So if y'all get a chance this next season and you come out to a game, I highly encourage you to meet those folks. They are
the Predator couple is their official
title,
couple, right?
Yes, they are the most down to earth, awesome people, and they make the community for Roughnecks fans, like, super hospitable.
Yeah, no doubt. I've met them a couple times at games as well. Great people.
For sure.
But yeah, man, I didn't interrupt you. I'm sorry. I had to.
No, you're good. You're good. But like I said, I'll bow down to the greater fans. I, in a sense, I feel not worthy to be on a podcast, but it's exciting.
Oh no, man, you're doing great. Yeah, you can put your thoughts together well. You're not mumbling. I think you're doing a good job.
I will acknowledge, not to toot my own horn, but I was a kid that grew up in high school who loved public speaking and got more of an adrenaline rush than, like, the bone quenching, freezing fear of it, like most people do. So it is what it is. No, I think, I would personally, I don't know. It's hard to think through the inner workings of it. Like, either stadium I could see working out for us. I would hate, to your point, for the season to get pushed back just because of one or two teams. It's like, it's one of those things for me. And I look back on the whole delay this last season, like, I get there was probably legal stuff that is way beyond you or I's, pay grade to even begin to comprehend and understand. But at the same token, like, if it's all you got and you're trying to, play the waiting game for something else to open up or whatever, at a certain point, you got to, crap or get off the pot, to put
your losses and
phrasing.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I would hope that they don't allow, like, their indecisiveness, or for this condition with the Roughnecks, their tentative waiting to go, oh, is the construction going to get done in time for the portion we need to see? It's like, no, that makes no sense. you're going to screw all your fans. You're going to screw the teams. Like it's a complete disservice to everybody who wants your league to succeed. And it just doesn't make logical sense. I mean, it's better to just say we're going to have to call Omaha for this one season, hopefully play in a different venue and then potentially come back to TDCU when things are, done and fixed there. So we'll see.
Yeah, any kind of forward action would be awesome, even if it's an acknowledgement of, hey, it's probably not going to happen.
Right.
That's cool also. As a fan, you can deal with that.
Yeah.
But I know if they
tell people like what other venues are on the table, even if you can't say definitively, okay, we know which one we're going with. Say. We're working, and I don't know how like closed door or NDA, these type of inner workings are, but like I would think that neither entity would be mad for those two to give an example. If you said like, hey, Rice and BBVA Compass is on the state, it's on the, I don't know their current sponsor, but the soccer stadium are on the table. We don't know which one yet, but it'll likely be one of these two because we don't foresee construction work that UH is doing getting done in time for the start of our season, and just leave it at that. So then people know, okay, at least I know what venue I'm getting myself into if I do commit to buy season tickets. And I guarantee you'll have at least a few folks that at least are willing to make that blind commitment than folks with no information. People are just not going to act like you said, they're not going to buy season tickets when you don't know when you're playing, where you're playing, just too many unknowns for a fan.
No doubt. Yes, sir. And I got Michael. Mike, I'm going to get your comment after Michael's just because it applies to the conversation. So Michael said, I doubt the season will be pushed back. If anything, Houston would start on the road for 2 to 3 weeks like the Battlehawks did in 2023. And that's the same thing Mike's saying as well. Mike's saying worst case scenario, they play at Choctaw or Alamo Dome. Yeah, I could see that being a probability.
That would be a really good solution just to be able to maintain TDCU, because I personally think it's the best option locally in our city for them to play. Personally, that I know I'm biased saying that, but Rice is so large. I mean, that thing was built originally for NFL size attendance. We're not near there, and we haven't even gotten to the point where we're selling out TDCU yet, and it's not like you can find a smaller venue than that. I commend. Obviously, St. Louis has a freakishly large fan following, so there's a reason they're able to fill out Ameribank or whatever it is arena there, but the stadium. But DC has got like the perfect setup in my opinion. These smaller soccer fields that fit between 20 to 40,000 people are the ideal venue for a startup league like ours that is, got their amount of fans, but not capping it as super high volume quite yet.
Yeah, and the energy's there, man. That's a whole. I've heard. I haven't been, but I've heard it's intense being on the field there.
No matter where you're at, I mean, any place you can maximize the populace of the seating capacity, it's going to make the venue be louder, more intense, more of an engaging fan base for the game. And yeah, it makes it. I mean, if you want to take any pride or bragging rights and being a hard place to come play, you've got to have the full kit and caboodle of people in the stands. So.
Yeah, those soccer stadiums are intense. They're kind of just stacked onto that field, man.
Yeah.
It's intense. Yeah, so Mike said Shell, and I think that's Shell Energy Stadium he's talking about. That's a soccer stadium as well. You being in Houston, do you know where that's at, specifically? I've said that term and I've used it, but I don't know where it is. I don't know
if that's the re-sponsor for the Dynamo or a different one that I'm not aware of. Yeah, I wouldn't know.
Gotcha.
I haven't been to a Dynamo game since I don't know how many years back, so it's been a hot minute for me, and I haven't been on much of the side of town I eat very often. So.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean, I don't think the schedule would be pushed back in terms of the season, but the release of the schedule, I feel like that would be pushed back. But yeah, in terms of the actual season, right. I don't see that being pushed back. But we're just hoping we get that info at least a month prior.
I would hope that Dana and Dwayne Johnson are going like, all right, guys, I don't care what happens. Our commitment this year is we're going to get this schedule out by December 31st and no later. And if we can't do that, we got bigger problems. So, I don't know. We'll see. That would be my fingers crossed prayer that we can have. You think about it. I shared that with people, some of which I talked with, beginning of this year. And I was like, I'm the guy, and I'm sure this isn't true for most people because most people are local to their team. But, I mean, we had Enoch, the guy from St. Louis who came down for the Battlehawks game. You got guys, folks who are traveling for away games, let alone folks like myself who they're supporting a team that's not even in their local city. And I've got to fly there. Your ideal window usually to buy a flight's like 2 months out. If I don't know the schedule till less time, then I'm paying more to travel down just to go to the game. So it's
Yeah, and
something.
just finding a nice place to stay, it sounds like it's ideal, but you wait till 2 nights beforehand, and it's difficult
Right.
that way.
Especially in a place like Houston, you're right.
Yep.
It's going to be, there's always something going on. There's always going to be demand for all the abundance of hotels we have there, as much as there is. I'm lucky that I have family that still lives there. So I'm able to, whether it be couch surf with my brother or stay with other family, I've got resources, but not everybody does. So.
Yeah, I stayed at a bad hotel one time and never again.
Got to do your research on those. That's for sure. There's a lot of those roach motels.
Bedbug motel, bro. It's a little worse.
I believe it.
Yeah, I also wanted to bring up that topic. You being a fan, I know you care about it and have some good input. Let me see
Yeah,
if comments.
I tried to make an effort leading up to the podcast. You gave me a heads up about it, and I was excited to be on it. And I do keep in touch with several alma mater friends of mine. I went through the construction management program in Houston, so coincidentally, a lot of the fellow students of mine or fellow graduates either work for completely different contractors. They're all around the country, but I got a lot of folks that still live there locally and work for local GCs. And being in that kind of like community professionally, you still get a good wavelength. I know I could name off the top of my hand, like the top 3-4 contractors who do work on our campus, just because I know those companies. I know who they are, one of which I used to work for. And so, in those type of things gives you a better hindsight to at least know possibly how the construction project's going to materialize for the stadium. But, I unfortunately wasn't able to get in touch with anybody that I know, and I wasn't able to confirm who actually is doing the job. It could be Turner's, like a big contractor that does a lot of sports work, but there's a couple others I know that always probably compete on bids for athletic projects that the university is doing. So
Understood. Appreciate that insight. Yeah,
yeah,
Michael said pushing back schedule release would delay single game ticket sales. I agree with that.
100%. Yeah, it's a domino effect. It would. That's why I said. I mean, like we said, neither of us are business experts for a league startup, but at the same token, the more you push that back, the more it's negatively going to probably hit your bottom line for at least the first week, if not further weeks into the season. So.
Yes, sir. Yeah, like I said, it just kind of rubbed me wrong that season tickets were available last year in the same kind of fashion that they are this year. I would really like to be able to purchase single game tickets. Now it's a little different being a media, but like you said, being a fan, that's a trip. That's you're spending money to get there.
Oh, yeah.
The tickets are usually the cheapest part, to be honest.
Yeah, that is very true. Very true. I think just off the cuff, I'm going to say one of my flights was probably between $300 and $600. And I mean, you get a rental car in there for several days, it adds up pretty fast. So.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I understand. Yeah, I was just going to try to gather content myself then, and it comes out of my pocket. I didn't have nobody paying for it, so I get it. So yeah, like I said, I just wanted to bring that up and hear your opinion on it. Let's roll into just a fan engagement in general. So getting the rah during going during games, having events amongst the city, doing sponsored things for the community, things such as that nature from the XFL in general. I mean, how do you feel that went in 2023?
I don't know what was done league wide per se. I know many of the functions that were put on by the Roughnecks or subsequently the XFL, I'm sure, on their part. But what they did locally in Houston, there was a lot done. They had, I want to say, at least 1 or 2 preseason like public meetings that were done with Coach Wade Phillips and other staff. They had the big kind of commencement, I guess you want to call it, or whatever, at City Hall in downtown Houston. I didn't get to attend that, unfortunately, but I know it garnered a pretty good crowd, and they had several of the actual players that came and attended that as well. And then they had also one thing I was able to catch one of the weekends I was down. They did a little like social function at the Dave and Buster's there off of I-10 on the west side of downtown, where some of the, I think, sales marketing folks came out. Several of the players too, Alan, the OC, and I don't know, I forget what players actually were there, but they did basically some bowling with the fans. So like you can't get more direct grassroots engagement with your fan following than that. And I think that was really awesome. Something I don't recall them doing in 2020 to compare it just side by side. I loved the I forget her name. I know she's an Aggie grad. I always remember when folks are my technical collegiate enemies, but the one spokesperson gal that we've had at every game. She was awesome. Definitely helped the fan atmosphere along with the other guy. I think they had two folks, the other Middle Eastern guy.
I'll pull her up. Go ahead. I got you. I know who
Yeah,
you're talking about.
they both did a great job of bolstering the excitement in game during the game days, getting a lot of fan engagement, and I think that was good. Really have no critiques with what they did and their use inside the team functionality. Yeah, so I think that was very good. Beyond that, it's hard for me to like try to throw out ideas for what further they could do. I would say just, maintain that stuff, continue it, find other opportunities to do it around the city, with the local city, theoretically for each team, really. And yeah, I know not all of us can make it to the hub in the Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington area. I would say if there's a way they're able to do like something even theoretically where, Dwayne and Danny could even come to like each city preseason and do like just a I don't know, social roundtable or something. That would be really cool too, to just bolster fan engagement. But just stuff like that makes the fans feel more cohesively a part of what's actually occurring, and they're not just a cog in the wheel, if you will. Like they actually care about, the folks that are paying money to come see the games and that type of thing. So
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So that was Kennedy Smith you were talking about.
yes.
Now, in terms, I know you had some like extra benefits being a season ticket holder, and that was like on-field access and such. What can you tell me about that you remember? I know you had an on-field. I even seen you at one of the on-field.
Yeah. So to my knowledge, the photo I think you shared with me and my dad was the on-field access I had this season for the Battlehawks game. I do, as a critique, I would say I think their rollout in pre-game each week communication for that was a little subpar. They did give like the email heads up at the beginning of the season, letting people know the 4 or 5 weeks, I forget how many home games it was, that they were going to allow people to pick from in terms of setting their priority. I think you had to send back a response email providing your priority on like your top 3 choices, basically. And I knew I was pretty well locked to get mine solely because I wasn't able to attend the Brahmas game. And then what was the other one I had put down as like my second choice, but the first was the Battlehawks, and I ended up getting that one because it was so late in the season. But it was just short notice when they did it to confirm, like send out the confirming email. I didn't know until like I think a day or two prior for sure that I was going to have any form of on-field access, and they didn't do it. I'm speaking totally from vague memory here. I don't think they did it much sooner in 2020, but they did give more of a heads up. I think the week of the game at least, to confirm that you had, your priority selection or whatever for on-field access. As far as season ticket holder perks, I want to say Tanswood, the only other one I can recall was like having 10% off in the shop online. I don't know. There may have been others that, since I wasn't obviously living there and there every single week, that some fans experienced that I might be just ignorant to. But those were the main 2 ones that I think I can recall as a season ticket holder. So
Understood. Just wanted to gauge that. I know that if there was anything special, you would have remembered it. So that's what I want to ask.
They probably had one of these functions, I'm sure, socially that were done locally in town. They might have had 1 or 2 that were specifically only for, season ticket holders versus just your general fan attendance.
Gotcha.
So that could arguably be one of the perks as well. But like I said, I wasn't obviously there every week and definitely wasn't there preseason. So if they had them, I wasn't able to even attend. So.
Yeah. From my view as media coming in, I would plan my trips a week before if possible. And much like you would say, I would get the notices a day, 2 prior. So a lot of those events I couldn't attend either, such as like, right. They met at like Turkey Leg Hut and some other places like that. So and I know they did do stuff, but I just wanted to see in terms of what you thought, how it went.
Yeah, no, most of what I experienced or indirectly experienced, I was all good. I honestly, the Dave and Buster's thing I attended, I did actually was able to make it, but I actually showed up late because I didn't find out about it until Sean Yarborough, one of the other fans. I think he goes by Big Sexy most of the time, fan populace. But he had I think messaged or shared something on Facebook about it, and I just happened to be scrolling my phone at the time. And was actually, I think, had just grabbed lunch or something near my brother's place out in Katy. So the minute I saw it, I was like, bro, I'm coming. Just, I don't know if I'll make it in time, but I'm going to try. And so I was just flying down I-10 trying to make it, and I was able to catch the end of it. So, but yeah, that was maybe, you know, some degree of improvement on the communication or distribution of the communication, but that comes with the marketing side too. So it's obviously, I'm sure, restricted on a financial component.
Yes, sir. In terms of you as a fan and fan engagement, how do you feel the best way to engage with fans of any sport? So, not talking about the XFL, but who's your pro team? I'm guessing the Texans. Is that correct?
For football, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, in terms of the Texans, do you feel like what are they doing that the XFL's not?
That's a good question. I mean, one most notably, which there may be a component of this that the XFL already does, but I still, once again, I feel like it's limited to maybe the hub, is the Texans have their the training camp, I want to say, open fan practices where you get like tons of folks showing up. I mean, that's a turnout every time, every year. Some of our very own Roughnecks fans, I think some folks attended that I know that I'm friends with on Facebook. So I think that's one good way to definitely get engagement, because you're right there on the field with the players as they're going through their regular rigmarole. You see kind of at least to some degree, the inner workings of the team operations as a club, as a football club, and not just, you know, gladiators on the field performing for you, so to speak. So I think that's pretty cool and definitely makes you feel more in the thick of it and at the grassroots level. Beyond that, I mean, I don't know, maybe 3 years or 4 years down the line when we're in the green and they're making good money, maybe, you know, Dana and Dwayne can throw us some mascots for all the teams, so you can get a big guy with a 3-times size head oil decker hat walking around on the field for Roughnecks games. I don't know. The kids love mascots. So I went to a Sounds game recently with my wife and my son, and we didn't stay the whole time, but majority of the time we were there, my son was doing nothing nonstop than chasing the Sounds like rooster around the stadium, going chicken, chicken. Like, so, I mean, the kids love it at least, and that makes it obviously a better family atmosphere. But I know that costs more money. So you got to find somebody willing to sit in a hot cotton suit for a couple of hours and maybe or maybe not get paid. I don't know.
Hey, they're there. You just got to ask them. I'm sure they do it. You give them the suit, they're rolling. I know a few guys right now that they would be up for that.
Send an email to management, be like, bro, I volunteer. Just tell me where I sign up. I'll buy the suit.
Yeah, so Mike said that fans should organize watch parties, talk to bars, restaurants, and have games, you know, at the bar, have watch parties, have events. And from what I understand, a lot of fan groups do this. A lot of the podcasts facilitate these activities, but they're not official XFL activities.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. I've seen different ones indirectly. I know St. Louis obviously does it a ton because they have such a big fan following. There were a couple people, I want to say Roughnecks fans, I had seen trying to do that for some of our away games. And then even to give the Pred couple a shout out again, I know they did a full-blown like Roughnecks convoy. They left from Katy and drove literally in unison. I don't know how many vehicles total they had, but they had like a legit convoy going from the west side of Houston all the way to San Antonio for our game against them over there.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, there's some people who, like I said, you got fans that truly love the sport and want to support the team, you know, balls to the walls all the way out. Like, they're going to do stuff like that. And they're obviously, every team needs more of those people. So
agreed. Let's move on to another question. This is a basic one. I usually ask this to anybody I interview regarding different subjects, but what was your best and worst experience as a fan? What's the best one you've had, and what's the worst one in terms of XFL?
So hard. I'd say best experience for me, obviously every one of the games and the actual game experiences is always awesome. I personally love the fact of being able to go to a tailgate. I enjoyed the community and the communal aspect that I gained from that. A lot of the folks in our tailgating group bought, I think, end zone seat tickets. So I'm personally the guy where I'm like picky when it comes to picking the seats I want for the game. I'm sure I'm biased because I've never had the experience of sitting in the end zone side on either a pro or college level to kind of get that experience of, you know, catching a Lambeau leap, if you will, or whatever. And I'm sure that, you know, is unmatched in its experience.
It's a good time.
Value. Yeah. So, but outside of that, I would say for me, like if I had never started going to the tailgates, as much as I still would feel like a part of the team from fan support, I was in a section where it wasn't fully bought out. It was sporadic week to week in terms of the amount of fans I saw just in my section. So I did feel partially isolated in that, but having that community of people on the tailgating side gave me a relational connection with fellow fans where it wasn't just like a friendly face in the crowd or someone, hey, you look cool, can I get your picture kind of thing. Like, these other people I knew by name, relationally, they're willing to help each other out. I mean, we had folks bringing in food of their own accord to contribute to a full tailgating operation. So, I mean, it was a good time. A lot of people just, want to have a great time and share the love with everybody. So it makes it that much more memorable.
If I remember correctly, the fan groups, this one that you speak of right here, what exactly is their group called on Facebook? Do you remember?
So they're the Roughneckers Tailgate. If you go and look up on Facebook, they have a full-fledged Facebook group. I think it's a private group, but they'll obviously accept new folks willingly. But yeah, they're the ones that used to be formerly known as the Katy Roughneckers, I think in 2020 when they first started. But obviously they've had so many people come from all across the city who've joined in some of the tailgating functions, like myself included, that they chose to, I think, change the name this season. Great group of people, like I said. A lot of them, too, I think, kind of flop between not only the XFL, but also support the Texans and other sports stuff. So you get a lot of people that you can just see have love for sports in general, whether it be football or otherwise, going to something like that. And yeah, I mean, we had the other photo you shared, I think was a cool opportunity. I got to chit chat with the guy a little bit, but he's a sales rep for Old Smoky, and it's kind of just the ironicness of me.
This one right here?
The other group one that has like the Old Smoky table in it, I think you showed it right before.
Right here.
Yeah. So that guy lives in Houston. I think he's originally actually from Tennessee. For the folks that don't know, Old Smoky is a moonshine company and product that's based out of East Tennessee. And it was just cool because he works in Houston. They're, I guess, trying to still gain a greater foothold down there further south because it's obviously a well-known product up here. Tons of people drink moonshine in Tennessee and probably the Southeast. But obviously prior to me moving to Tennessee, I didn't even know of its existence. And so he was using it as kind of a springboard to market their product at our tailgates. So he handed out a lot of free drinks there. Really, like I said, awesome dude, cool, sociable, down to earth, and kind of joined in with us on some of our tailgate festivities. So that was a neat thing too. I would, hope that would be something that could. I think he's reached out to the league before about potentially helping provide sponsorships or whatever, and I think that would be something, at least from a small, however quantifiable level, could possibly just financially help the league to some degree if you can get folks that'll come in there and help sponsor and put their name on stuff, but you get the incentive as an operation and a business to get a little boost in the pocketbook. So.
Yeah, it looks like a good time. I'm kind of jealous that I wasn't there for that.
Come on back. I'm sure he'll be back this coming spring. Get you some mixers or something. He had plenty of selection the week that we took that photo. So
I tell you what, man, going to those games, I would go in a couple hours before what would used to be my tailgate time, and it was just pictures, talking to players. It's definitely changed my view of what's going on the ground, but I do miss my old roots of tailgates and good times and screaming your head off as loud as you can.
I feel you there.
Let's see. You got a couple comments. We're almost done, Kenneth. I appreciate you, man. We've been on for an hour and 9 minutes.
You good?
What's up, Jersey? That's my guy. He'll be on next month.
Nice.
He's got his own show. Check him out, Jersey the King. And we got the Predators. Oh, I'll definitely come out if I can. I promise.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So you didn't tell me your worst experience, though. What was the worst?
Man, I don't have one. I'll be corny and share my one pet peeve as a fan, and this is just me personally. I get soccer has its own culture, but this whole beach ball phenomenon thing that they started doing in Houston, if it was the thing in 2020, I must be had my blinders on or something, because I didn't see that in one game I attended in 2020. And all these people who came out of the woodworks this year were trying to swarm our stands with beach balls. And just as the football purist I am, it's why do I want some distraction flying through the air when I'm trying to see a pass play take place or whatever on field? I told people, I was like, if one of those comes to me, I'm going to either be popping it or throwing that sucker at the ground because I'm trying to watch a football game, cheer my team on. I don't need no beach balls in my face, but it is, everybody's got their own thing. I get it. It's just like, if you need a gimmick to entertain you when you're at a football game, you clearly are not fully engaged in the event that's taking place. Personally, that's my opinion. So,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're correct on that. But some people don't like football. They just go for the event. They go
no,
for the gang, the crowds. They do all that just to get the vibes, to the energy. So, I mean, I understand though.
it's cheaper to pay a $10 cover charge and go to the bar. Like, why do you got to pay $26+ to go to an XFL game? I don't understand. I'll get off my soapbox. I could ramble on that forever.
My opinion is it's just like people that watch it and have no idea what the hell is going on.
Maybe
what are you watching for if you don't understand it? But yeah, I feel you, bro. Oh man. All right, I got one more question for you, Kenneth. Kenneth, I'm sorry, I almost called you Ken. See, people call me Matt sometimes, and I don't like it too much, so I understand.
I've had when it comes to nicknames, I'm pretty fluid and flexible. My biggest thing is I just have to have a heads up to know what you're going to call me, because I've been called Ken, Kenneth. All the girls in high school called me Kenny. I guess it's the feminine version of my name. And then when I lived in Kentucky, I had people call me like Texan Priest. So, like, I've had everything under the sun for the most part.
Oh, Tex, that's a good one.
Yeah, because everybody in the bluegrass state was making fun of me. Obviously, they get the whole steers and queers comment every time I was new there, but it was all good. So.
Yeah, I used to live close to Tennessee. I'm familiar with how they roll. But yeah, the last question for you, and I asked Anthony Miller this when I had him on Sunday. As a fan, I'm sorry, Tuesday. As a fan, how do you see the XFL evolving in 2 years, 2025? In terms of you as a fan, what do you think we're looking at expansion? Do you think we're looking at more teams? Do you think we're looking at less teams, relocations? What's your opinion?
I've heard rumblings interminglingly about possibly Vegas changing locations. I think they had shared somewhere online about XFL Upperheads already filing for the patent on the Wildcats name in LA or whatever to get that back. So, I mean, I could definitely see, that was, I know, a slap in the face to a lot of people, in my opinion. Obviously, you didn't have a huge following in New York, but we had a team there. We had a team in California. Both those teams got nixed completely in this reiteration. And I mean, those are not anywhere near their closest teams. Maybe you could argue DC, but still, that's a hike for anybody in the general sense. And that just kind of just cut the feet out from a lot of fans following those respective teams. I personally would love to interview and pick the brain of whatever marketing genius thought, let's steal the logo configuration of the New York Guardians, change the colors, and then recycle it for the Orlando team. That to me is mind-boggling, and I don't know how that person still has a job personally, but that's my problem. My biggest nitpick for the league, if you got to get specific. Other than
No
that,
comment. That's an off-air conversation for
me.
me.
So I could definitely see Vegas possibly moving if they do have some intent there to change the venue and improve that. I don't know if, as much as I would want it, and every optimistic fan would, you want to see your league grow and the whole system grow. I don't even know if 2 years is long enough for them to build what they need financially to start a whole new squad. I mean, you kind of touched on it generally. Neither of us could probably even begin to correctly get in the exact ballpark of how much each of these organizations, and I say organizations, independent teams, are costing to run holistically if you just were to isolate one squad individually and run the numbers on it. So I mean, at a minimum, they do that. They have to keep it. We're in football. We're not in any other type of sport. You got to keep it even. So you got to have two teams being added at a minimum each season you choose to expand. And so whatever cost you're looking at for one squad, you've got to at a minimum double it. I don't know what that is, to your point. And I would assume what all of us general public folks are not privy to, with whatever conditions Redbird Capital has in their 3 to 5 year plan for investment, that might be worked in there at a certain milestone point. But I would not be surprised if we don't expand within the next 2 years, just because they want to get to a greater level of surplus and actual, sustainable revenue as an organization and a business. So Obviously, you want to see every one of the teams do well. And in that same token, obviously, I would hope for the league's sake, maybe you see an improvement in like the win-loss ratio that Orlando experienced or even Vegas experienced for that standpoint, because then those fans have a reason to come back. Obviously, I'm always going to root for my team, but at the same token, you don't want a Browns or a Lions in a league this small, because a team that doesn't have any success, it's very, very hard to maintain fan support. And that, it's just like having 2-3 teams that are profitable and the rest of the league is losing money. It doesn't work long term when you run the numbers. So I don't know. I wouldn't see, personally, in my opinion, I don't see expansion occurring in the next 2 years, and I'm okay with that. I'd be more hard pressed to see a successful product being maintained. I'd be happier to know, them post an article about, hey, we hit profit margins this season instead of 2 new teams coming out, because every fan would then know, hey, we got a reason to have another season next year. We're not finishing come April, May going, well, I don't know if we're going to another season, but this one was fun. Like, that gives you a reason to come back. So gives you long-term hope for the league. So, and there's a lot of pessimistic people out there who will say, every one of these spring leagues are a dime a dozen, never going to be successful. It's like, how many people probably said that about Joe Schmo's ice cream parlor, that got started up 32 different times in 30 different towns. Like, everything, has an uphill battle when you come to start a business. But I mean, I don't think it matters how small or big it is. Anything can be the pioneering source, if you will. And, if we can make it past 3 years, I think that's what it is. We could arguably say we're doing at least better than the USFL of old, because that's probably the biggest sports business that's football related that's had any form of sustainability in the past 30 plus years, I guess. So maybe more than that, 40 years, because it was the 80s when that happened.
Yeah, long time ago now.
So I would, there could be, I guess, in a sense, possibly at some point in the future, some type of merging between the two. I don't know how feasible or realistic that is, though, because, I mean, you've already seen, I wouldn't say ownership, but some of the lead faces for the USFL badmouth XFL. So, I mean, I get how they're probably saving money, and they even, I think, reported this last season how they made more than we did. But I mean, you tell me one professional sports, it doesn't even have to be football. Give me one example of a league that has run only virtually and been successful, and I will completely, outside of your gaming industry, which is a whole different animal, I've never heard of it, never seen it. I don't think it exists. So I get that viewership nowadays with football especially is like the big thing that brings the money in for the league. But that comes from the fact that you have a realistic, real life product on the field that people can tangibly come to see if they want. If you don't have that, you don't really have.
Excited, I hit my head.
You don't have the foundation of a business. So for football, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Fox has got the blueprint, and they're just built off of what they had. Right. It's what it is. I try not to talk bad about either one, but you see the differences regardless of which fan you are. We don't have to argue it either way, but I would love a merger. I would love that. The skill that we would see, the games we would see, the passion, the drama. I mean, I feel like that would be epic. But
and you think about it too, beyond the competitive component, you've got that opens you up to a larger array of broadcast partners for both, leagues if they were to merge in that sense. So that's a pro. Nobody loses out in that regards. And more players, to your point, get that opportunity to springboard back into the NFL theoretically. So, I mean, if that could happen, that'd be amazing. I just personally, I hope that they improve over time if they do truly want to be successful, to get their teams in their respective cities that their names say they're representing. Because, in my opinion, you don't do that after so many years, you're pretty much doomed to fail. But that's just
I've said it many times. If the New Orleans Breakers were in New Orleans, I would be seeing them and wearing gear, being a fan. Right. But because of that, I'm kind of turned off by it.
Yeah. I was not up for supporting the Gamblers, partially because Kevin Sumlin was the coach, and he's been every coach we've had at UH who's left seems to get the UH coaching curse, which I love to see. But their uniforms were also just very ugly. So I just
no comment. I'm not going to get on that. I'm not going to get on that. We got some comments. I'm going to pop in. What's up, JC? Horns Forward Podcast just did a fundraiser for school supplies last weekend. Yeah. and it was awesome. There's some pictures and videos they have on their Facebook page. Check it out. They did a really good job organizing that. Made a huge difference within the community. But that's what she was saying here. The XFL should still be promoting an off season in their prospective cities.
Yeah, that would be cool. In terms of including players, I don't know how realistic that is because we've got so much undetermined right now, I think, with the rosters. But you bringing that up, it definitely makes a good point. Like, it would be cool to see additional folks on, I don't know, visiting elementary schools, firehouses, whatever you want to call it. They get you kind of at the community level for sure. That would be really cool.
Yeah. And just even if they put their name on it and provide transportation or a website, anything, it would definitely make a big
food
difference.
Bank, you could go countless different ways with that for outreach standpoint.
There's plenty of things to do in Houston. I know I'm not from there, but I know there's plenty to do if you want to do some philanthropy. Oh, but man, you've been a great guest, Kenneth. I didn't expect the conversation to run on this long, man. We've been talking it up. We got comments rolling. Let's see. Mike said the XFL is in its last year of its lease at Cashman. Unconfirmed, a possible delay in Vegas says that field at Cashman is being reconfigured, as are the seats.
If they do that, I think that would be a good thing because I personally could never get behind any venue that only has two-sided sectional seats. I think a lot of people expected them to put up some type of stands around the other two ends of the field, and it never seemed to come to realization this last season. But we'll see.
Yeah, just make the camera angles better. The announcers don't put them up in a 30-foot wind-blown announcing booth. that was something that was pretty bad on TV. You could hear it, and at least make that where it's nice. But yeah, I mean, personally, I think Vegas, they have fans there. They do what they need to with that field. It'll be okay. I don't doubt it. Most of the time, they were selling all the tickets possible in that venue or close to it. So I think there was like 9,000 seats or something available. I can't remember exactly. I got a couple more comments. See, Predators. See more teams going to their respective cities rather than the hub in Arlington. Yeah, I would like that too. More practices there in their cities, more events, send out for camps, stuff like that would be awesome. Just even getting it like we did the YouTube stream with the combine or the showcase, either one. Those were great events. And if you can get those streamed, even if an hour long, I guarantee you're going to rile some people up and make them excited.
Yeah. There could be, opportunities for partnerships. I'd even say, I know that venue cost for a place like TDCU is not cheap. You could go somewhere as simple as, if you're just doing practices, Texas is big when it comes to football. You know that as best as anybody. And you pick A-Leaf, Hightower. So many different suburb towns that have big football programs, and say, hey, let us use your field for football practices. It'll, will give us an advertisement for your folks, and they thereby add to the attendance potentially. And then also, give a shout out to the local high school, whatever city that's allowing them to use their venue.
Yeah. Or hold camps, hold events, hold O-line camp, hold receiver camp. Have a couple of your athletes from that city come out and work with the kids that day. Things like that are huge. Don't charge money for it. Let the kids come for free. Give them a water bottle, a shirt or something. That's stuff that really makes a difference that here in our corporate world, we forget about that sometimes.
For sure.
I think that's all I got, Kenneth. That's all the comments. Any other comments before I roll? He says it was awesome. Great interview. It really was a good interview, man. You're welcome to come back anytime. During the season, things are going to kick up and be pretty busy around here. So, I welcome you back.
I throw out that idea since Odin mentioned it, Mr. Predator, with regards to you coming to a tailgate. If you've got the equipment for it, I'm sure, heck, between all the folks that attend, we could probably make it work. We got to set you up with like a live podcast broadcast from a Roughneckers tailgate. That would be pretty badass, in my opinion.
Yeah, I could definitely see myself doing that. And that's it. Come next year.
It'd be a little mini college game day going on. It'd be awesome. So.
That would be epic. Next year, I'm going to try to set up a tour, and I'm going to try to visit as many stadiums as possible.
There you go.
If not, then I'll be at Houston as I was last year, every game. But, I'll be at Houston at least half the time, if not close, I'd say, throughout the season. So, yeah, dude, I'm down for that. And I want to meet the fans. I want to meet more people. That's what I'm about. Collaboration, conversation. We don't have to do anything special. Just having a good time and
Sure, for
really,
sure.
being fans is really valuable. I feel like sometimes being an NFL fan is a little difficult because sometimes you can't really talk about the things because you just walk into a room and it's an argument. So, I value the all the great personalities, the people that put their time in, the people that put their money in. I value it greatly amongst the community here with the XFL. It's nothing like I've ever seen in my life, and so that's why I do what I do. So I'd love to do that, man. We'll get it planned out, but that's what need to get you back on the show for sure. I'm gonna start referring to you as our fan analysis expert for Houston, and that
I'll
way
do
we'll
my
get you
part to
on.
do your thorough research, so I'm not just speaking out of my own point of view, but I'll do some secondary fan surveys and get the full feel of our conglomerate group for at least a round.
Hey, you'll be in places I can't go is the way I feel about it. So
There you
you'll
go.
definitely have some information and insights into topics and events and such. And that's what, even if you come in for like a 10-minute spot during the week, that's cool with me, bro. I'd love to have you anytime. You're always welcome back. Great interview.
I appreciate it.
Yep. Good times. Good man. Before we hop off, I didn't include your socials because I didn't know if you wanted people to look at your Facebook and stuff.
No, it's all good. Yeah, I think it's just facebook.com/Kenneth.Priesmeyer. It's Priesmeyer. I know he's got it on the feed, so anybody looking can probably see it. But that's my personal Facebook. Like I said, I haven't gotten as eclectic and fancy as some of these other folks getting full-fledged alter egos going, but maybe that'll just be me. I might throw in my gaming tagline and go KJ double P, but I don't need to probably go with an alter ego. I don't feel like so.
Hey, I mean, that's what I said. I didn't include it because I didn't know. Some people don't. Some people don't want that, and some people do. But I'll make sure to include it in the notes. Like I said, it's an audio podcast also, so I mean, it'll all be in the notes and easily clickable. We're getting some more comments coming in. Let's see, JC, come down to SA and join the. I'm down for that, guys. We'll set it up for sure. And then we got Jersey. Take advantage. I agree, Jersey. We're going to take advantage. That's what we're doing here, just providing content and trying to keep the XFL trending. But yeah, Kenneth, like I said, man, this has been a great conversation. I greatly appreciate you, and I look forward to talking with you again soon.
Appreciate it, man. Go Roughnecks. Drill, baby, drill. Let's go.
Drill, baby, drill. See you later, Kenneth. Appreciate you, brother.
Have a good one.
You too, man. Awesome guest. Appreciate him coming on today. That was a good conversation. You really get the feedback of someone who's an actual fan, super fan. It's a little different than an analyst or a media reporter or someone sitting in a position of authority or anything. So it's good to hear his take on everything. Appreciate you, Kenneth, greatly. Oh, before I hop off, I want to thank the XFL for letting me cover, of course, and XFL board. I've started putting some publications out with them now. Check for that. There may be some more opportunities coming up with networks. I'm not sure. We will see. But either way, it's been a great ride. I appreciate all the people that have helped so far. It's been awesome. August 20th, we got Aiden Burt coming on. That's XFL Center from Twitter. Really, really excited to talk to him. He's got a little different background than what the guys we normally talk to, and I'm going to wait till he gets here to tell about himself more and get for y'all to meet him, but that should be a good one. He also writes for XFL Board. I really didn't know that until I started researching him. So, yeah, check him out. Anyway, guys, let me see. Got some more comments. Thanks, Predator Couple. Appreciate that. JC, take it easy, man. We'll see you soon. Y'all let me know when we're ready to meet up and collaborate a little bit. Fans, podcasters, anybody, appreciate you guys. This has been a great ride, and no matter what happens, just have fun, enjoy yourself, be positive, and keep on doing what you're doing. But anyway, I got one more thing. So last time I was talking about Mike. Mike's the editor-in-chief now for the podcast in terms of contributors and content that they gather. I said his last name wrong. Mike Guardiola. That's there you go, Mike. Just for you, baby. But yeah, appreciate him and all the contributors that have come on. We'll be doing some intro stuff for them as soon as we can. But man, it's been crazy busy my way. It's been a good time, but like tomorrow I'll be heading to the Saints game and covering that, and that's going to be a whole nother world of stuff I've never experienced. So super excited, but then again, it leaves me pretty booked. Mike says thank you. But yeah, guys, it's been good. Appreciate you greatly. Like I said, until next time, peace out and go Roughnecks.